Hello, it is Evangeline today, and we are going to be watching, and I will be describing the process going into coloring a piece of art with your Copic markers. I have this drawing here of my favorite muse, Odette and Siegfried, and I've done this on Borden and Riley Paris I cannot speak this morning. Bleed-proof paper for pens, and this is especially made for markers and pens. And I'm going to be using my Copic markers. So we're going to start, I always like to start doing the skin. Now with Odette, she has very pale skin, so I'm going to go and I'm going to pick some colors, and I'm going to actually keep my palette rather small because I want to have her appear very porcelain. So I'm going to start with a very pale earth tone, E50 or eggshell, and I'm going to move on to my YR000, which is my silk. Now when I'm picking my tones, now earth tones, they go in a little bit of a different, they're a different system that I'm still trying to figure out entirely myself. And then there, with your non-earth tones, if we look at the numbers YR000, this is going to tell you a number of different things. And if we go back to my chart from my first tutorial, remember that the first letter is going to be your color type. So in this case, I'm using YR, which is yellow with red. And then your second number is going to be the intensity, or how much gray you have in your color. So this has actually 3 numbers. So the first 0 says that this is not going to have a lot of gray. It's a very low, not a terribly intense color. And then your value is going to be the last number. And this is telling me that this is all the way at the very bottom of the value scale. So this is a very light color. So this is what I want to use first. So I'm going to start with my lightest color, which is my E50, my eggshell. I'm going to start, and if I find any pencil marks left over from my original sketch, I will go ahead and erase them. You do have to go rather slow and around the edges here, because there's going to be a lot of white in this drawing, and I don't want the colors to bleed out. Now you notice when I get to these feathering, the feathering here, I don't want to get the marker ink in them, so what I do is I dab, and I let the ink make its way into the space. You can sort of imagine sort of like pushing the ink where you want it to go. Now you notice that it will dry a slightly different color from when you apply it. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pretty much do everything. I do my first coat. Some people, maybe they would like to work on one part and then, you know, completely, and then move on to another part and do the shading, highlighting, everything. I tend to work in layers. I'll put my first layer of skin coat down over the whole figure. Now I'm not going to color Siegfried because I'm going to have him be slightly darker in color in his skin to contrast with the porcelain of my Odette. Now some people, they have different methods for how they apply their color. I like to do mine in strokes. Some people like to do theirs in little circles to get a very thick, even coat. I'm going to be doing generally so many coats when I illustrate that I don't do the circle technique like this. I just do strokes and get in there. The idea is that if you do your circles all over, that's going to apply a very thick coat of ink, and you won't get any streaks. It'll look as if it was almost done on the computer. However, if you know that you're going to be doing a lot of layers, some pencil right there. Yeah, once you go over pencil in Copic, it's stuck there, so. If you know that you're doing a lot of layers, I don't worry about putting on a thick, even coat every time, because it will eventually smooth out. And also, if you're working on a good paper, you don't worry about it. Now, I'm not going to be doing her legs right away because her legs are encased in tights, and her legs are going to be almost white. So I'm going to leave them later and focus on, I still have so many little pencil marks all over the place. I'm going to focus on just her upper body. So I did the E50, the eggshell, so I'm going to move on to my next lightest color, which is my YR000, which is my silk. And now I'm going to start figuring out where my shadows are going to be. So I want my light coming in from the top, and so my shadows are going to be more along the bottom. It's tricky when you work with a lot of ballet dancers and use a lot of ballet reference. There are also sort of lights coming from all different directions, so it's good if you're more of a beginner to pick a light source. You can actually put something in, you know, where your light source is coming from to keep reminding you. But you definitely want a light source. I'm gonna just go through here. And it looks dark now, but this is actually gonna dry quite lightly, so I may even have to do a couple different coats. And anytime there's, you know, there's something lifted up, I do want to show that there's a shadow. So under this jewel, there's a shadow. Under her nose, there's a rather thick, deep shadow right there that's going to be probably my darkest shadow on the whole face. And a little bit in the hollow right here. Now you can see what I've already laid down, that's already lightened up considerably. So you can actually add more shadow than you think you would need. Generally you want to be pretty liberal with your shadows. Generally a lot of beginners, they tend to just pillow shade, which is they just sort of shade around the ends and they have this tiny little tiny itty bitty shadow. You want to make your shadows much bigger, much more dynamic, and that's going to really bring depth to your drawing. You actually want to do more than you think. Alright, so I'm going to take a break here, and we will continue in a moment.